Hey everybody, it's Michaela, and today I thought I would talk about questions that I get asked being a female race car driver all the time. And before we start this video, one, I have my questions in my lap, so if you see me like, woo, it's because I'm looking at my questions. That way I don't forget everything I've ever been taught when I panic and freak out at the fact that I'm looking at a camera and recording myself. Also, if my eyes get super red or my face gets super red or anything gets super red, kind of how that's pretty red and that's pretty red, the answer is because I am wearing makeup and I'm allergic to makeup, but I wear it anyways. So I guess we'll just move on to the questions. The very first question I get asked is just basically what it's like to be a female race car driver. And to answer that question, I would say that it's no different than being a male race car driver. You do get treated just a little bit different, but not very much. The second one is, are the drivers nice to you being a female? And to answer that question, most of the time, yes, the drivers are nice. In the very beginning, the drivers aren't as nice, and there is two reasons for that. One, they're not nice to anybody in the very beginning because they're trying to intimidate you because they are out there to win. And if you're a new driver, you're probably not very good. And if you're not very good, you're probably hindering them in some way, shape, or form. It does happen all the time. But you just get over it. Number two is because sometimes after a female wins, a fan or a parent or a fellow racer will go up to the other person completely joking, but it does kind of get to you a little bit, and say, well, why did you get beat by a girl? How does it feel to be beat by a girl? And just a bunch of things basically saying that girls aren't good as guys. So how does it feel about the fact that somebody who shouldn't be better than you won? The third question I get asked a lot is, are the fans nice? And to answer that question, I have never had a rude fan come up to me. However, I have been watching other races where there have been females involved, and I have heard a bunch of older men usually say something like, oh, how is a female winning? Females aren't good, and females suck, and if I was out there, the female would not be winning because I would beat her every time, which is typically just the older men, and they're just kind of stuck in their ways of females should be not doing as extreme sports and that it is male dominant. That's what they've grown up watching. And so when there is a female involved, they are kind of like, ooh, this is new to me, it's scary to me, so I'm going to put her down. Then the next question is, what are your specific fans like? And my specific fans are actually usually young girls, which there's nothing wrong with my fans being young girls. I love my fans. They look very much up to me, and I enjoy the fact that I can make that kind of impact in their life. I enjoy the fact that little girls come up to me and say, I'm a big fan. I want to be just like you when I grow up. I look up to you. You're so kind. You're beautiful. You're like a little racing princess. Like, that is the best feeling in the world. And so I would not change the fact that my fans are mostly little girls. Was racing intimidating? Yes, racing was intimidating in the very beginning. Racing is no longer intimidating at this point, but when I was a 12-year-old little girl going out there on the racetrack for the first time, it was very intimidating because I didn't know how well I was going to be. I didn't know how well the others were going to be. I didn't know how well I was going to be treated. And I also didn't know what it would be like when I got in a crash. Would it hurt? How scary it would be? Just all those types of things. Now it is nowhere near intimidating, and I have lots of fun out there every weekend. My favorite part about racing would also be the fans because there's nothing that can replace those little girls coming up to me, especially when they call me a racing princess. Like, that is the biggest compliment I can ever get from a little girl because, as you all know, little kids are brutally honest. Another question I get asked a lot is who my biggest supporters are. And my biggest supporters are, of course, the fans. I have a lot of fans that go out there every weekend just to watch specifically me come back after the racing to the pits every meeting, every weekend, just to get my autograph and come see me. So that's really exciting. My other big supporters are my grandpa, who works on my car quite often, just make sure it's ready. He's actually the one that's taught me basically everything I know about racing. And then there's my mom, who came out every weekend, even on the weekends that she didn't feel good or didn't necessarily want to, because she just wanted a Saturday to herself, which is completely understandable, but she still went out every weekend, even after I told her she didn't have to. And she's the one that bought me all my race cars and gave Grandpa the money to fix it every time it needed to be fixed. So she's a big supporter. And then there's my grandma, who also came out every weekend, even on the weekends that she didn't feel good or wanted just a Saturday to herself as well. So there's her. And then there's my current boyfriend, who is always out there supporting me too, but he also races, so he has no choice but to be out there and support me, and his father. And they're the ones that actually got me the car that I am driving this year, so I'm super excited about that. Another question is, what is it like driving inside the car? And to answer your question, I can't really honestly tell you for 100% fact sure. Basically what happens is the adrenaline just starts pumping so much that once I get out of the car, you can ask me anything about while I was inside the car, and I cannot tell you because all I was focused on was winning the race, and so therefore, winning the race, not crashing, and doing well. So therefore, I cannot tell you what I was thinking. I cannot tell you my reactions. None of that. I can, however, tell you that once you get those seatbelts on you, you have to pee every time. It never fails. You can't get out and pee. They're like 75 they're like 75 lap main events, and you cannot get out and pee for those whole 75 laps. Another question is it hard? And in the very beginning, it was kind of hard, but I got really used to it really fast. I adapt to my cars really well, so it's now not hard. It's still kind of scary sometimes, and being as I'm driving a new car this year that I have never drove before, it will be a little hard at first, but I'll get the hang of it just like I always do. And the last question is racing safe? And to answer that question, most people say that racing is safer than being in an actual car. You have a 5-point harness which protects you at all times. You have a Hans device, which allows you to not move your neck at all. You have a helmet, you have a fireproof racing suit, you have a roll cage that goes inside the car. So to answer your question, yes, cars do catch on fire sometimes. Yes, cars do roll sometimes. And yes, we do get in pretty bad wrecks sometimes, but most of the time, everybody's safe. I think I've only seen one race personally where the person was a little bit injured and had to go to the hospital. The rest of the time, even if they flipped or anything, they were sore, but they were completely fine, nothing wrong with them. So I hope you guys enjoyed me answering questions that I get asked a lot and questions that maybe you had. If you by chance have any other questions that I did not answer that you would like to be answered, you can go ahead and leave a question in the comments and I will for sure answer it for you guys. Hope to see you guys later, and I hope you have a good week. Goodbye.